Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Guys Who Stare at Stats. I'm Cade Kennedy alongside Connor Gray, and we have a lot to get to today. Some fun news, stuff that I really enjoy. We get to talk about conference scheduled times and things like that. Stuff that 0% of people care about except for people like me, because I enjoy that stuff, finding out when networks do things and all that. We have a lot to talk about. NBA news, NHL, a whole lot of stuff. So stick around here. And as I always turn it over, Connor, how is your day going today?
Doing pretty good. I've cut soda mostly from my daily diet.
Well, that's good.
Basically, I'm probably restricting myself to maybe only drinking on occasions on pop because I've been drinking way too much of it.
Yeah, don't do it. Soda's bad. Soda will kill you. It's confirmed.
Everything kills you.
Everything kills you, but soda definitely does. I've been told by multiple sources. Many people have said this.
Did anyone tell your ices also kill you?
No, because I choose to refute. I choose to ignore that. But moving on to the Big 12 football early season kickoff times already getting announced a little bit earlier today before we went on the air. And a lot of interesting things here, a lot of things we expected but are still mind-blowing, at least to me. Of course, Central Michigan, Oklahoma State going to be a 6 o'clock FS1 kick for the Thursday night game there. Mm-hmm. West Virginia Pitt, the backyard brawl returns at 6 on ESPN.
That's gonna be a big one because that's reigniting a rivalry right
there. Yes, it is. There's a classic rivalry there. And then stuff we already knew, Tennessee Tech will be playing Kansas at 7 on ESPN Plus under the Big 12 Now brand. Mm-hmm. TCU Colorado Friday night, late night out at Boulder, 9 o'clock Central for us. Mm-hmm. So always having to adjust to the altitude and the late times out there. Not the most fun thing to do, but
no.
The one that stands out to me on Saturday, September 3rd, UTEP Oklahoma being a 2:30 game. That's the only game Fox is having that Saturday. And they chose a 2:30 time for it, which I believe is the exact same time slot and game as Lincoln Riley's opener. It was also a 2:30 kick against UTEP. So the more things change, the more things stay the same. And then you got other Big 12 Now games, Southeast Missouri, Iowa State, South Dakota, K-State, Albany, Baylor, Murray State, Texas Tech. Texas gets their Longhorn Network game.
It's pretty much that first week, the Big 12 pretty much goes unopposed.
Yes.
Besides obviously the couple of bigger games, you could say, obviously TCU Colorado being a bigger game. Obviously, that game of the week is going to be West Virginia Pittsburgh.
Yes, that's going to be the big game in the Big 12 for week 1.
And I'd say probably for just the entirety of the whole thing because there's not really much games announced already.
Yeah, so that we get moving on to Saturday, September 10th. The move that we all knew was coming but makes a lot of people upset. Alabama, Texas will be a big noon kickoff as we all thought it would. Now it's just officially double confirmed. If you, for some reason, thought they were going to listen to people's petitions to move this to a night game. Of course it didn't happen. Unfortunately for Alabama and Texas, they get to go get burnt in the sun all day.
Suffer.
And Missouri K-State will also be an 11 a.m. game. That'll be on ESPN2, a good old Big 8 rivalry reunited there. Houston, Texas Tech will be at 3 o'clock on FS1. Iowa State, Iowa getting moved to Big 10 network this year. People not really hyped for that this year.
Well, it also doesn't help that Iowa State doesn't really have – they're not going to be the same. They're not going to be that hyped up team as they were this last season.
Yeah, they're not a big favorite to do anything.
You lose your best player in Breece Hall to the draft, and you pretty much graduate all your veterans.
Yeah, I mean Vegas over/under win total had them at 6.5. So no one really expecting Iowa State to do much.
But also I'm not expecting much from Iowa as much. I mean, they're great. I know they are bringing more people back.
Listen, they're going to get 20 punts a game. It's going to happen, Connor.
But, I mean, we expect punting a lot of it. But
it's winning.
I think Iowa's not going to be – it's not going to be – I don't think it's going to be like what last year just ended up being disappointing of a game because both teams I just don't think are going to be as good as they were obviously last year. Mm-hmm. Iowa State, in my opinion, if they just didn't have turnover problems, they'd be a much better football team.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy was their
Brock Purdy's Brock Purdy.
Yep. It's basically how Trevor Knight was to OU for
Yes,
years.
yes, it was. But other games around the league, not a whole lot of big stuff. I mean, Kent State, Oklahoma will be the first ever Sooner Vision on ESPN Plus game that gets produced. Arizona State, Oklahoma State should be a fun one. That'll be 6:30 on ESPN2 for September 10th. And then Baylor, BYU, late night 9:15 Provo game. That will be fun.
And that's setting up for what's going to happen for next season, because BYU will come straight in.
Yeah, that'll be a future Big 12 game. And then Saturday, September 17th, of course, getting announced earlier today, Oklahoma, Nebraska will be a big noon kickoff game once again.
Like how last season
Yes, this time it'll be in Lincoln. Nebraska fans are a bit shocked. They thought they were getting the ABC night treatment for this one.
I'm sorry.
I expected them to do it, but they went with Michigan State, Washington instead on Saturday night.
That one I'm like...
I don't understand that. Washington's terrible. Michigan State's okay.
Yeah. Michigan State, like, they're going to be top 25 most of the year. Washington's just not that team anymore, but... The reason why, obviously, Nebraska and OU is not going to get that ABC treatment is because, the idea is OU did the big noon, therefore it's fair. Nebraska also gets it. I mean, because you and other OU fans would be out of your mind if they got the ABC game.
To be fair, I think every OU fan I knew was expecting Nebraska to get this night game, and it was going to be great. Another reason we need to get rid of Fox and go to ESPN permanently with the SEC stuff, because I do not understand. I mean, I know Fox wanted this game because it's two big-name teams. But why in the world would you not try to compete with Michigan State, Washington? And now, if Penn State, Auburn was the night game, I would understand that completely. You don't go up against that game. That's a giant game. But that's 2:30 CBS.
OU and Nebraska would beat out that
game. Nebraska is going to be the number one game of that
It's mainly because you want the highest amount of viewership as possible. So they're going to try to get it without having to deal with any competition.
Yes.
They know ESPN always put usually their worst games in the morning.
But I mean, ESPN started doing their game day games at 11 last year to try to go head to head with Fox. And the result of that is everyone suffers because who wants to go to an 11 a.m. game?
But also Fox seemed to win most of those battles.
They did because it was Georgia versus the team of the week.
Well, it's also they had better matchups.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean, Georgia versus the team of the week.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get hyped up for Georgia, Kentucky when Michigan State, Ohio State's on Fox.
Oh, most definitely.
But looking at some of the other ones, not a whole lot going on this week in terms of Big 12. I mean, Texas Tech, NC State will be a little exciting.
Besides OSU getting their one FCS school.
Yeah, they get Arkansas Pine Bluff. Kansas goes to Houston. That'll be interesting just to see where Kansas is. That's the main thing going there. And then some other dates just to keep an eye on.
These are just not confirmed.
Yeah, these are not confirmed. West Virginia, Virginia Tech, Thursday night game, 6:30 ESPN. OU, Texas, and Dallas is going to be an ABC game again. They got the rights from that one. Baylor, West Virginia, a Thursday night, October 13th. Now, this one kind of surprises me. I think this is a typo, but Saturday, October 29th, Oklahoma, Iowa State will be on Fox or FS1. That was originally scheduled as a Thursday night game. So I think it is still a Thursday night game, but there's a typo there. But OU changed. I looked at OU's website today. They changed it from Thursday to Saturday.
I guess they must have made an agreement to have it on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know if they changed that or not.
If you have it on, there's a good chance that might get the night game treatment on Fox.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we were thinking. Okay, it's Thursday night.
You'll probably get Tim Brando.
Yeah. And then November 25th, Thanksgiving Day, Baylor, Texas will be on ABC or ESPN.
Fair enough.
West Virginia, Oklahoma State, Saturday, November 26th, will be on an ESPN network. And the Big 12 championship game will be on ABC, probably at 11 a.m.
Yeah, it's always it's weird how
it used to not be.
We used
back
to,
in the good old days.
We
were the night game.
The 7-8 o'clock time slot because the Big 12 got more respect because I don't know what happened. All of a sudden we went from the Big 12 was a really great conference that everyone respected to. Now Big 12's like considered the afterthought, despite the fact it's the way things are. It's the third best conference in FBS.
I blame Baylor winning the Big 12. I have no proof of this, but I blame them.
I think it was that first decade where OU didn't really win a title besides 2010.
I think it was kind of the beginning of that, yeah. OSU winning, then Baylor going back-to-back, then 2012, the K-State, and then
Baylor back-to-back.
the Baylor back-to-back. And it's just like, okay,
and then,
who are these teams? Please explain why Baylor is good.
Because they got good.
Because they did. And then kind of looking at some of the other conferences, we're not going to spend as much time on them. Just some highlights, some quick hitters. Utah, Florida will be 6 o'clock ESPN for Saturday, September 3rd. Oregon, Georgia is going to be the big one, 2:30 in Atlanta on ABC. And then Boise State, Oregon State, 9:30 ESPN. Looking at Saturday, September 10th. The special treatment, Lincoln Riley's first ever Pac-12 game, gets Saturday Night Football on ABC at 6:30, or Saturday afternoon football if you're in California.
Now we'll see if USC can actually beat Stanford.
And then Washington State, Wisconsin will be a 2:30 Fox game that week. And Colorado Air Force, 2:30 CBS. So shout out to Air Force. Colorado's first appearance on CBS since 1996. So long time coming for them. And then because Pac-12 After Dark has to begin already, 10 o'clock on FS1, Mississippi State goes to Arizona.
For us, 10 o'clock.
Yes. 11 o'clock for East Coasters. So
East Coast's going to be asleep. We're going to probably be hanging. We're probably just going to try to stay awake for that.
Just be like, hey, it's Mike Leach versus Arizona. What else do you want from that game? And then Saturday, September 17th, BYU Oregon will be 2:30 on Fox. Cal Notre Dame will be a 1:30 NBC. Michigan State Washington will be Saturday Night Football on ABC at 6:30.
I will say for for what of the schedule we've seen so far, it looks pretty solid for the Pac-12 actually trying to go play teams.
Yeah, I mean they're getting a lot of good matchups. I mean,
we
2 weeks in a row you get the Saturday night game.
Though that it still remains to be seen on how good are they actually going to be, how any of these teams are going to be. We don't know how USC is going to be after the whole switch up in their culture.
Yeah.
Because Lincoln Riley coming in, bringing in guys from OU, bringing other recruits that were initially going to go play for OU to USC, though a good amount of them still stayed to go to OU, but obviously it's not the recruits that OU was hoping to have.
Yeah.
But, I mean OU wanted them, but the issue is they're missing the 5 stars that they wanted.
Yeah.
But anyways, obviously, it remains to be seen how USC. I don't expect USC to be immediately top tier. I expect them to probably be third in their division.
Yeah,
unless they're getting.
I expect USC to win like 8 or 9 games.
At least 8 to 9, because that's a good. That's with the players that he's brought with him, and I think the talent that's still at that was still at USC, because USC can recruit that talent. The issue is they did nothing with it.
Yeah, they haven't been able to do anything.
And also, but I think also bringing Lincoln in, you keep talent that initially was leaving the state that are actually going to stay now. So that might change a lot of things.
Yeah, that might change a little bit. And then North Dakota State also gets the 10 o'clock FS1 treatment when they go out to Arizona.
I feel bad for
Everyone gets 10 o'clocks when you go to Arizona.
Because you don't want to deal with, because who's going to watch Arizona?
North Dakota State fans that week.
Well, besides the ones that want to root for them.
Yeah, and then Fresno State USC will be a 9:30 on Fox. You don't see a whole lot of those.
That's going to be a fun one.
That will be a fun one. Then looking at some of the other ones, Washington UCLA will be a Friday night. Utah Washington State will be a Thursday night. Oregon State Washington will be on a Friday. Colorado USC will be on a Friday. And then Thanksgiving Day, you get 2 Fox games, or 2 Fox Network games. At 2 o'clock on FS1, Arizona State, Arizona.
Post-Thanksgiving.
At 3:30 on, you know what? Thanksgiving is a multiple-day celebration in my household.
True.
UCLA Cal is 3:30 on Fox. You get Thanksgiving, and then you get Thanksgiving leftovers day. That's how this works.
That is true.
You're not going to cook Thanksgiving 2 days in a row. You're going to eat the leftovers. You made this giant meal. You're going to enjoy it.
Though I will say, Oregon State possibly getting
a Saturday
primetime spot.
I mean, if Oregon beats Georgia to start the year and is as good as advertised,
I will say
that will be really good for them.
Though I will say, I think the only way it's going to get a primetime slot is if Oregon State elevates a little bit. Though they did try to give Oregon a shock.
Yeah.
Tried.
They did. They tried. That's about all they can do.
But it's like they always give Oregon a scare every time.
They do. And then looking at Big Ten stuff, kind of flying through this a little bit, we get to start August 27th in Ireland with Nebraska and Northwestern at 11:30 on Fox. This is what Nebraska and Illinois did this previous football season, that game was supposed to be in Ireland, but COVID, so that game was played in Champaign, Illinois instead. And then Illinois will host another August game. This time they get Wyoming at 3 on the Big Ten Network. Penn State-Purdue gets to be a Thursday night game to start the year at 7 on Fox. This is notable because they traded Joe Buck for this game. This was supposed to be an ESPN game, and instead they send Joe Buck to ESPN. So, hooray for Fox.
I'm really curious.
Deal achieved.
Well, I'm also curious who's going to be doing that game.
Yeah, I don't know who's
because they're going to be
sent there.
Well, then again, they don't have a big noon game, so they might make one of.
Yeah, they might make that the big noon game instead.
Guess, because you're not doing big noon for any of these other ones in any of the other scheduled games. So.
Yeah, that's kind of what I expect to see them do.
Because you said that week the only
Fox game is UTEP OU.
Yeah, so
there's no morning game, no night game.
I think they'll make the Penn State Purdue game because
because
scary.
Purdue at night, it's like every Midwestern team at night. They're scary, very scary.
Very scary.
Iowa, entire state scary. Purdue scary. Everyone's scary. Speaking of scary. Colorado State, Michigan. It's not scary unless you're a Colorado State fan. That's 11 a.m. ABC. Mm-hmm. I could not imagine having to get up at 10 or 9 a.m. and be like, oh, yay, we're on ABC already. I just woke up. Yay. And then other games of note, North Dakota, Nebraska is a Big Ten Network game at 2:30. And the first Saturday night game of the year, Notre Dame and Ohio State. Just what a way to start the year. 6:30 on ABC. It's
been a long time since those two teams have played.
It has. And I'm glad they're finally getting to play. And then September 10th at 11 on ABC, it'll be Ohio at Penn State. And then you get like we mentioned already, Washington State, Wisconsin will be on Fox. And then a lot of Big Ten Network games. Nearly everything else is on Big Ten Network that day. And then you go to September 17th. UConn, Michigan is 11 a.m. ABC. Michigan keeps getting 11 a.m. ABC games.
Congrats, Michigan.
Yeah, congrats to them. Penn State, Auburn, we already said is coveted. 2:30 CBS game. First time Penn State's been on CBS in a long time. And Toledo, Ohio State gets a 6 o'clock Fox slot because reasons.
Though I will say it is kind of odd that the CBS games, they're not really SEC. Yeah. Like I understand Auburn is SEC, but they're not. It's not periodically SEC. It seems like.
Yeah.
Like it's just you're just throwing teams into slots to fit the schedule.
Yeah, I mean,
because they're still willing to do teams, but it doesn't feel like they're really doing any SEC stuff now.
Yeah, I mean they're trying to build up their other brands for when they lose the SEC rights to ESPN in a few years.
Well, that's where you should have been investing more into it.
Yeah, I don't know. There's still rumors they're going to try to court somebody else, so we'll see how that plays out.
More likely, either you're going to court the Big Ten to at least do some games, or you do Big 12. Because really, Pac-12 and ACC ain't really much of anything.
Yeah, so then it'll just become the Clemson game of the week instead of the Alabama game of the week.
Yeah.
But Saturday, September 24th, Maryland, Michigan, probably going to be a big noon kickoff. It's scheduled to be the Fox game, and if something happens, it gets moved to FS1.
Yeah.
And then Wisconsin, Ohio State that week will be an ABC game, possibly going to be a Saturday night game. And then looking at October 1st, we have some games announced. We don't have a time or date or not a significant date.
Well, no confirmed dates nor TV stations.
Yeah, and then just kind of looking on some of these other games that we have times for, we have dates for, but we don't have a TV network
Obviously, the Michigan-Ohio State confirmed for Fox.
And of course, Big Noon Kickoff will be there for Michigan-Ohio State on
Basically,
that Saturday.
they have set in stone that Michigan and Ohio State will always –
yeah.
Because typically they always play right out the gate.
Yeah, right at 11.
Like they've had games in the past where they have played in the afternoon or at night, but that's typically not how they usually do it. They always do it day in the morning, typically the last week of November. So obviously that's going to be your big noon game. Yeah,
they try to play that one usually at 11 a.m. because it gets kind of cold up there in November nights. I mean, the last time I think they played at 2:30 was what, 2006?
I think it was
1 versus 2.
Yeah, it was the game of the century.
Allegedly.
Well, they call it that.
Yeah, I know. And then looking at SEC schedules, CBS.
At least it was one of the game,
it was
quote unquote game of the
a
century.
game of the century
that lived up to hype.
Yeah, that is true. It did live up to the hype. And then SEC stuff, a lot of SEC network games. ESPN made a guarantee this year that every SEC team would get one ESPN Plus game. So you see those kind of scattered throughout. A lot of them, usually their first game of the year when they're playing an FCS team or someone you don't really care about.
And that'll be Alabama, like the second or third week of the year.
Yeah, so they get the SEC network game against Utah State week 1. So they get the actual set-in-stone game. And then Sunday, September 4th, the Louisiana Kickoff, first year they're doing this. Florida State taking on LSU in New Orleans. Totally legit neutral site game.
Totally legit.
About like Georgia playing in Atlanta.
Yeah.
You know, totally neutral. Nothing bad will ever happen there. But it's a 6:30 on ABC. And then some of these other games we already talked about. Tennessee Pitt, though, will be at 2:30 ABC for Saturday, September 2nd.
That'll be a game to look at.
That will be a good one. Kentucky, Florida will be at 6 o'clock that night. That has become a more intense game than it should be.
It's because Kentucky actually got good.
Yes, Kentucky can now beat Florida. It is a miracle.
And we all enjoy it.
We all enjoy it. That is true.
It's one of the...
Anytime Florida loses is a good day.
I love it how when it comes to certain sports, we all just like, oh, yeah, I'll actually root for this particular university now since they're not obnoxious.
Yeah, like Kentucky and Duke. It's like, yay, go football team. Basketball, no.
It's like,
no, get out of here.
I hope bad stuff happens to you.
Well, I hope you lose every game. It's impossible nearly, but I hope you do it. And then Saturday, September 17th, Ole Miss, Georgia Tech will be at 2:30 on ABC. That is the counter-programming to Penn State Auburn. It's not going to win, but they got to throw something there. And then... not a whole lot. Miami, Texas A&M at 8 o'clock on ESPN that night will be a bit interesting.
It's like I was going to say with the Georgia Tech Ole Miss, it's like, well, Ole Miss is good and they have a very good fan base that will watch them. Tech don't got enough. Like Tech's not good enough to warrant enough people to really watch them because they're just not what they used to be.
They're just kind of existing.
They're just there and get the occasional upset every so often. But it's like Auburn, Penn State, they're going to carry their own, easily win that, but we'll move on.
Yeah. And then some other SEC Network Plus games. Arkansas, BYU will be October 15th. We know nothing else about it.
That'll probably be an ESPN game.
I do know that October 8th, CBS has chosen that as its night game to do this year, which...
Wait, what?
October 8th. It's not listed on here, but
okay.
CBS in their release... They always do their game of the week at 2:30. Okay. That week they do a 2:30 and a 7. And the belief is Texas A&M Alabama will be that 7 o'clock night game.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be.
Because you have to.
Well,
you have to now.
Yeah, you have to.
Also, it's the 10th anniversary of Johnny Manziel beating Alabama in Tuscaloosa. And it's in Tuscaloosa. So there you go. You got to do it. And then Thanksgiving night, 6 o'clock, ESPN, Mississippi State Ole Miss. You got your Egg Bowl. And then the day after, at 6:30 on ABC, you get Florida State. First time that game's been on a Friday night ABC.
I would assume the Iron Bowl will be on CBS.
Iron Bowl will be CBS more than likely, unless something crazy happens.
It's going to be. I will say it is going to be odd for the Iron Bowl to be on ESPN.
That will be. I mean, it's happened one time.
It's happened before, at least in our lifetime.
Yeah, but that was 8 years ago.
It was so many years ago.
Yeah, and then the ACC Network, they've got some Saturday games. If you really want to watch Duquesne, Florida State, because you just love football that much, you can watch that at 4 o'clock on the ACC Network. And Florida A&M, North Carolina at 7:15 on the ACC Network. Again, if you're a true college football fan, you can watch North Carolina win 63-7.
So basically,
if you really want to.
So basically, it's going to have
it's going to have 5 people watch it.
No one's going to care.
And they're all going to be at the stands of the game because they're North Carolina fans. There might be one Florida A&M fan.
These are the games no one's going to care about.
Listen, I will care a little bit. I'm not going to watch it, but I'll care.
Like you'll care about.
Check the score.
You'll check the score.
I'll check the score.
You'll check to see if somehow.
Unless it's like tied at halftime, they'll be like, "Hey, wait a minute, hold up, what's going on here? It's getting a little spooky out here." But Friday, September 2nd, Virginia Tech, Old Dominion at 6 on ESPNU. Not a whole lot of big games week 1. I mean, NC State, East Carolina at 11 on ESPN. That's a bit of a rivalry there. And North Carolina going to App State at noon on ESPNU, so it'll be 11 a.m. Central Time.
Once again, their only big game that week will be the FSU-LSU game.
Yeah.
Even
and then you get Clemson, Georgia Tech, and Atlanta. Home game for Georgia Tech, but probably not really.
Not really.
Clemson will probably outnumber them on that Monday night.
They will.
It'll be like when Tennessee played Georgia Tech.
FSU, we don't even know how good they'll actually be because they showed promise and then just kind of fell off.
If they do what they did last year with Jacksonville State, if they do that to Duquesne,
that's gonna be hilarious.
They might actually get beat by 45 by LSU, who could finish 6-6 and still win that game by 45.
And then we have no idea what's going to be coming from Clemson.
No, we don't. Maybe they'll improve. Maybe they won't. I don't know. Defense probably good. Offense, who knows?
Defense is going to be good for at least a little bit longer, but who knows how that will go since they lost
Venables.
I don't know why I blanked on that. I should have.
Yes. Friday night, Louisville, UCF, 6:30 ESPN2. Not a whole lot of big games. September 10th, we already talked about some of them, but Duke Northwestern, the Academic Bowl at 11 a.m. on FS1. Got some smart people in that game. And Florida State Louisville will be at 6 o'clock ESPN Friday nighter on September 16th. And then once again, not a lot of big games, stuff we already mentioned, unless you really want to watch Wofford, Virginia Tech at 10 a.m. because you're that kind of person who wants football 1 hour early.
I guess the ACC really doesn't. It really just has probably the weakest non-con schedule.
They do. The only game I'm really excited for, they're Thursday nights. There's two of them I'm excited about. West Virginia, Virginia Tech, because the Black Diamond Trophy's back after 20 years nearly. That's a Thursday night game in Blacksburg. And then Virginia Tech going to NC State October 27th. That should be a fun game to see how good NC State is. And then North Carolina State. That will be at either 11, noon, or 2:30 on ABC or ESPN, depending on time scheduling. And the ACC championship game will be at a time on ABC. You got to love a time.
Probably the 2:30 time.
We don't know when, but they will play that game at some point that day. And then moving on finally from college football schedules to what has been happening in the NBA. And, well, a lot. A lot has happened since we were last here. The main thing being, hey, Dallas won a game. Finally.
They're not dead yet.
I'm so happy. I'm so proud of them. They nearly blew a 30-point lead at home.
Yes.
To their backups. That was fun. I was totally not stressing out with 4 minutes left in the game as Steph Curry came back in. No, sir, not me. I knew that Maxi Kleber would lock him up. I am an expert. But Dallas gets a 119-109 win. Like I said, it was a 29-point game at the end of the third quarter. The Warriors sub all their starters out. The Mavs also sub all their starters out. And Golden State goes on like a 15-0 run in 2 minutes. It was insane. Like, Jordan Poole starts hitting threes. Kuminga starts playing well. Moses Moody starts playing well, and it's just like, do not, if we get swept like this, you know what, just, my goodness, do not do this today. So Luka has to come back in after all this, and it just kind of stays a 10-point game. Then Golden State's at 3 and cuts it to 7. Then they cut it to 5, and then Steph Curry subs in, and then they bring Draymond in, and then they bring Clay in, and then they bring all their starters in. And then Steph Curry turns the ball over, and then Klay Thompson misses a 3, and then Steph Curry misses a 3, and Dallas gets it back up to 12.
So you're saying is that they should just
What I'm saying is Golden State should never play Steph Curry ever again. They would have come back from 30. If they just never start him for the rest of the series, they just play their backups and rookies. Yeah. So I don't know how that game happened, but
no, I don't think anyone.
Dallas played well for 3 quarters and then nearly embarrassed themselves for 8 minutes. I was screaming internally. Can't say anything because I don't want to wake people up around me at 10:30 at night. I was just like, "What are you doing? Just end this game, please. Do not blow a 29-point lead. I am not in the mood to do this today."
Do it.
And then last night we got a game of basketball. This was one of the hardest games I've had to sit through in a while. As someone who's kind of been going back and forth because this always is at the same time as Colorado St. Louis, I try to go back and forth between them when one's on break.
Yep.
St. Louis got down 3-0, so I decided I was going to watch Miami-Boston and see what happened. And my goodness, this was one of the ugliest games I've had to sit through. I've seen high school teams play better than these two. My goodness. Like, they're both playing good defense, but you get to a point where it turns into good defense and horrendous offense. Like, why are you airballing threes? Like, people are open for three and they're airballing stuff. Jimmy Butler's missing things that he makes normally. Bam Adebayo is getting offensive rebounds and then leaving it short. There's so many mistakes Miami made. Their offense played a lot better. Their starters actually scored 40 points combined instead of 18. But my goodness, this was one of the hardest games I've had to sit through in a while. And it was a tight game. Neither team scored 50, it felt like, in the first half. And then Boston goes on like a 10-0 run to start the third quarter. And it was like, okay, someone finally is shooting the ball well. I think at the end of the game they showed a stat. Boston got back to 50% shooting. Miami was at 32. They could not shoot the ball, and as a result, you get beat 93-80.
Yep.
So Boston is one win away from going to the finals. They're able to grit it out. Jaylen Brown dropping 25. So a big game there for the Celtics. But looking at tonight's matchup, Golden State back at home. They're 6.5-point favorites. It is a closeout game for Golden State. Like I said, Warriors 6.5-point favorites. Otto Porter Jr. is still day-to-day. No real other injuries or anything like that. And I really don't know how to feel about this game because Dallas proved they can win, and they proved that their game plan of shooting a bunch of threes does work when they go in. But obviously, as we know, Dallas on the road is a completely different team than Dallas at home, except for Game 7 at Phoenix. That was a completely different team.
Well, the thing was in game, I believe it was Game 2 was that the Mavs were playing like they typically do at home.
Yes, and then they didn't.
So they have the capability of playing like them home selves on the road. They just don't do it.
Yes,
or at least they don't play the whole game that way. So obviously, if they're Mavs, just do that. Stop being whatever. Anyways, it's one of those things where it's like, Dallas can win on the road. They just don't do it.
Yeah, it frustrates me a lot because I know the shooting is there. I know that the Warriors are still not playing up to their full potential, and the Mavs, if they just shoot normally, it's the other way around. And Dallas could be up 3-1, but instead you have some really bad shooting nights, and Golden State's trying to close it out. However, if we get into territory tonight, though, we really get into unprecedented territory if Dallas somehow wins this game because of the 140-something plus teams that have gotten down.
146 to nothing.
146 to nothing for 3-0. 62% of those teams get swept. So Dallas is already in that rare 38%. If they win tonight, they force a Game 6. Only 10% of teams have ever done that, and only 3% have ever forced a Game 7. Of course, no one's ever come back from 3-0.
No.
I don't think that happens. I think Golden State finishes it up tonight. They play a little bit better. Their bench has a lot more confidence now. This is what happens when you get up 3-0. You can afford to play everybody and kind of, okay, we'll lose it. Not intentionally tank a game, but okay, we're down 29. We can rest our starters, let the rookies play.
It's because when your starters really aren't playing good at all, especially against Dallas's main rotation.
Yeah.
I think they're like, okay, there's no point. I mean, they were getting killed. So when the biggest thing that Dallas did was they took out all their starters, all their main guys.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of leaving like a couple in there, they just took them all out, and that's what killed them.
Yeah.
That's what gave the bench hope. But if they would have just kept Luke out there a little longer, or maybe one of the other guys out there longer, Golden State doesn't really get that chance to really do anything.
Yeah.
And maybe kills the bench's confidence. But once again, every game's a new one. We don't know how Golden State's going to respond to that loss. More likely they'll close out the series. I think they will. But don't be surprised if Dallas just somehow pulls one, somehow goes back to Dallas with it.
Yeah, I saw a funny stat today, and it was a half meme, half truth. which is always a funny thing. Whereas, like, Dallas was down 1-0 to Utah. They're down 2-0 to Phoenix. They're down 3-0 to Golden State. Lord helps Miami or Boston when they get down 4-0 to Dallas, which I found hilarious because I was like, I'm sure if that was a 9-game series and the Mavs were able to do that stuff, then yeah, probably it'd be hilarious. But I really am just proud of this Mavs team. They didn't get swept. They at least took it to 5. This has been a season way above expectations. I honestly thought we were done after getting down 2-0 to Phoenix, and the fact that they've battled their way to at least winning a game against one of the best teams in the NBA and beating what everyone thought was the best team in the NBA. It's been a special season, and I'm happy to see the Mavs get this far, but I think the road ends tonight.
Yeah, it all comes in tonight.
Unless they somehow win, in which case, hooray.
If they do that,
I will just start laughing and be like, they're not dead yet. I'll just keep saying they're not dead yet till they get proven otherwise. But moving on to Miami-Boston, another Game 6 that is tomorrow night at 7:30. Boston is an 8.5-point favorite in this one, and there's a lot of reasons why. They had a bad game last night. They turned it over a lot. They shot horribly. But they made adjustments and started shooting better and getting inside, making their shots, and Miami could not make an adjustment.
Well, if it wasn't for Miami also playing poorly,
you can make the argument Miami
kills them.
Yeah.
And Miami's up 3-2 instead of Boston being up 3-2.
Yeah, but I think
like you're going to say is that Boston's going to play better and take it to Miami.
Mm-hmm. That is precisely what I'm thinking. I think you're at home. You're not going to get a better chance than this if you're Boston. You know what you can do. Just get Robert Williams in there. Let him do his thing. He's done a wonderful work on Adebayo in the on defense and down in the post this playoffs. Just let him do his thing, and whenever Tatum or Brown get open, feed it to him. If Al Horford keeps playing the way he is and Marcus Smart keeps playing well on defense, you're going to be fine.
Yep.
Jimmy Butler can't beat you single-handedly.
No.
If you take all his weapons away, you will be completely fine. Yep. I think Boston finds a way to do it again, and they get their trip to another finals.
Yep, I fully agree. I think Boston finishes it off tomorrow night and going back to the finals, and I think they'll probably be more of a favorite than anything. I think whoever comes out of the West, which more likely would be Golden State after tonight, I think Boston's going to be the favorite.
Yeah. But moving on to what has been some times in the NHL, I guess is the best way to put it. We've had a lot of weird results, starting with the Rangers continuing the prophecy, getting a 4-1 win over Carolina because Carolina's not allowed to win on the road. Like we have said a lot, they are, 0-5 on the road and 5-0 at home?
Yes.
So that's always a good time. Or technically 6-0 at home because you got to win that game 7. So
yeah,
technically 6-0. So my goodness, they get to play again at home tonight in a game 5. So good for them. Shout out to them trying to go 7-0 at home. And Calgary and Edmonton continuing to wail on the Flames when it matters. It was a 3-3 game going at one point in the third, and Edmonton just blows it open late. They get a 3-1 lead going back to Calgary.
That offense is just killer.
It is insane.
Calgary just doesn't have an answer to stop them.
Speaking of insane offenses, they were on display. Colorado looking to win the series. They're up 3-1. Nathan McKinnon gets 2 goals early. They're waiting for the hat trick. It never comes when in the first 2 periods like people thought. Colorado gets up 3-0, and then all of a sudden here comes St. Louis. They get a goal. They get another goal. And keep in mind, I'm not even watching the game. I've given up on them. I'm like, okay, they've scored 2 goals. If I don't watch, we're good. Okay, they scored goal 3. Turn it on, immediately see Nathan McKinnon score, turn game back off. I was like, I turned it over for 5 seconds, and Colorado scores. They're up 4-3. McKinnon gets his hat trick. Place is going crazy. Colorado's a minute away from going to the next round. They haven't been here in a while. They're trying to do what no team's done in 20 years. But Robert Thomas has other plans. He gets his 2nd goal of the day on a little just chip in, sends the game to overtime, and Bozak ends it with, keep in mind, one of the softer shots of the night, just 77 miles an hour. Your average NHL shot's going to be 94, 95. He just kind of just floats it in. It goes right under Kemper, goes in, Blues win 5-4, going back to the Enterprise Center.
Yeah,
my goodness.
Yeah.
5-4. How did you do that, Colorado?
At work last night.
How did you blow a 3-0 lead?
At work last night, I went into the break room just to kind of see what the highlights were on SVP for Sports Center.
Yeah.
So they were showing the game, and it was like I was like, oh my God, they sent it to overtime. There's no way they actually won it. And then as soon as the final result, a coworker of mine was also watching it behind me. He immediately grabbed me like, oh my God, they actually won. We're both in shock that the Blues somehow managed to survive another day.
That's what St. Louis does best. They're a gritty team. I don't know how they do it. I mean, the emotion from Coach Berube after the game, I've never seen him that excited to win a game. They were showing a locker room footage of him. That's probably the second happiest I've ever seen him at, except for when they won the Stanley Cup. It's probably the second happiest moment I've ever seen from him.
I think he was just happy they won.
My favorite reaction was in Ballpark Village. They were showing the game because the Cardinals were they were, I think, done with their game or on the road or something like that. But in Ballpark Village, which is right inside Busch Stadium, they're having a watch party for the Blues. And you just see that place erupt. And the best part is the organist, the guy who plays the organ for the Blues, also does it for the Cardinals. So they just use him for everything.
Yep.
And they had a camera on him, and you just see him start losing his mind. And he plays the fastest version of When the Saints Go Marching In I've ever heard him play. And he starts, like, speeding it up, and then he has to remember to slow it down to play this song. But it's just like, okay, they're ready. They're ready for Game 6 back home. It is going to be a wild atmosphere. Also, I jinxed it. Colorado scored first for the first time this entire series after I brought it up on Tuesday. You know what? I'll take it. We're 1-0 when they score first. Score an own goal if you have to, if that stat holds. I don't know, but I'm so happy that St. Louis is not done yet. I don't know how both my teams cheated death on back-to-back days, but it has been a good Tuesday and Wednesday, I'll say that. It has been a lot of fun, and it'll continue to be fun because we get New York, Carolina already underway. Hurricanes are favored in this one, as you'd expect, an over-under of 5.5. Carolina is undefeated at home. We're going to keep making fun of that until it gets changed.
Until the Rangers or someone else actually does it. I'm picking Carolina to win at home.
That's what I am too. Someone's got to show me you can beat Carolina and Raleigh. I don't think it happens tonight. Give me Carolina.
It's mainly like you got to prove you can beat Carolina at home, and Carolina's got to prove they can win on the road.
Yes.
Otherwise, this joke will not die.
Yes. I kind of want to see it keep happening like the entire. I want to see them do the Mavs thing where they just trade off and on, and then they beat Tampa in like a Game 7 in Tampa or something.
That'd be hilarious.
That would be amazing. But Oilers Flames, Battle of Alberta. It's gonna be wild in Calgary tonight in the Saddle Dome. Possibly the final game of this series. Flames trying to crawl back out of this 3-1 hole. I really don't know how to feel about this one. I want to say Calgary. They are favored. I feel like this is one of those classic, we're not backing down yet. Give your home fans one last win to go out on the season. But at the other hand, Edmonton's been playing so well, and they're on fire right now. Yes, pun intended.
But I think with this one, obviously you think, well, the way everything's gone since Game 1, and it's Edmonton, although Edmonton's going to take this and close it out in 5. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to be one of those that are going to probably go against it because I know Calgary is favored, right?
They are favored at home, yes.
Well, I'm going to go with the favor on that, and Calgary does somehow survive Game 5, but if they go back to Edmonton, it's over. Mm-hmm. Either you lose in Calgary or you lose in Edmonton.
Yeah.
And more like for Calgary, you'd rather lose on the road than lose at home.
Yeah.
Because you send the crowd home even more devastated than you do if you lose on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, McDavid and company are just going to do what they do. I think they're going to score a lot of points. Once again, I'm not going to be surprised if Edmonton takes it. I'm just picking what I like to call an upset.
Yes.
Because Calgary typically probably wouldn't be favored right now.
Yeah.
But because they're usually pretty good at home, that's probably why they're favored.
Yes. I'm going to be a little bit different. You know how I am with momentum. I love teams that are on momentum shifts. I think Edmonton has rode this wave to the best of their ability, and I think they get it done. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Calgary wins. I agree with a lot of what you said. But I think Edmonton finds a way to just do whatever they can. It's a rivalry game. There's nothing better than shutting your rival up at home and ending the series and watching them all go home sad and knowing that you won the province again.
I will say with in regards to if Calgary if Edmonton lost tonight,
they probably win in 6.
They win in 6. It's like it doesn't kill their momentum.
Yeah,
it's just
it's just a little hiccup in the road.
Yeah, it's just a hair because they dominated all the 2 games at home.
Yes.
So I don't see that changing if they goes back to Edmonton.
Yeah.
But once again, I'm just picking Calgary because I think it might happen, but more likely it'll probably be Edmonton taking it.
Yeah. But final game to pick, what happens tomorrow at 7 o'clock on TNT, Colorado and St. Louis. And, of course, still no Bennington, no Krug, more than likely no Scandella. Colorado is favored in this one, which you would expect. And I really want to know, what is your thought process if you're Colorado? You had the game in your hands twice. You had a 3-0 lead, and then you had a 4-3 lead with 2 minutes left, and it got yanked from you twice. You lose in overtime. How do you respond in this game? If you're Colorado, how do you set the tone having to go back into St. Louis where you've had success, but you know it is going to be like trying to stick your head in a hornet's nest for this one?
Yeah, I don't know what you do if you're the Avalanche. You should have taken the last game. You should have won this in 5. Instead, you're now playing a game 6 going back to St. Louis. Obviously, your thought obviously I know what they're thinking. They're like probably all expletives everywhere saying
probably some
saying we
words.
should have won this gosh darn game, and Colorado's probably going to come in very mad.
Yes.
But Blues can use that to somehow survive to send it to game 7.
Yes.
I could easily see I could see either team winning because Blues have shown, hey, we might be down 3-1, but we're still going to fight, and they did and won. And obviously took going into overtime to do it, but hey, a win's a win.
Yeah.
And especially in the playoffs. So I hate to, as much as I would love to see Blues send this to game 7.
Yeah.
I think Avalanche take care of not take care of business. It's still gonna be a close one.
It will.
I think Avalanche just survived to get out of the second round and on to the Western Conference Finals.
See, I think now. I am biased. I will say that. I will absolutely say that. I will always start with that before I pick my team to win. But I think that St. Louis is going to come out. I think the chip on their shoulder grew about 10 sizes after winning that game in Colorado. The mentality of this team to just not give up now, it's got to be there. You pull out a gutsy win like that, you have to, even though you still got to win 2 more games, you know you can beat them now. You knew you could beat them with Bennington. Bennington goes out. Now you know you can win with Husso. Yep. You've got to make it a shootout, though. You know Colorado's going to score 3 or 4 at least. But if they can do that again, and I think they can, it's a little bit easier at home, if you can do what I've been saying they need to do, make this a physical game. You got to make this a fight, pretty much. As close to a legal fight as you can in the NHL, which is pretty close usually.
It's like fights are pretty legal in there.
I mean, well, you mentioned it. Colorado's probably going to come out fast and angry. How do you beat a fast team? You rough them up. You beat them up with physicality.
And Blues can
St. Louis is probably the best team to do that to them. I mean, if we get Colorado-Edmonton, though, that is going to be a track meet up and down the ice. So St. Louis is kind of the last gritty physical team they're going to have to deal with for a while, I think.
Get Colorado-Edmonton what's the term?
Just my goodness, I don't know. It's going to be an all-out.
Basically there's no breaks.
All gas, no
all
breaks.
Gas, no breaks.
That's what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Steve Sarkisian will make an appearance and say all gas, no breaks before
it's
that one.
All gas, no breaks because there's going to be no defense.
The first to 10 wins every game. It's just going to be 3-on-3. They're not even going to try.
There's no defense.
But That will be fun. I think St. Louis gets the win. I still think Colorado takes the series in 7. I refuse to believe they will blow a 3-1 lead. If they do, I will laugh very hard on the show when we come back.
Everyone's going to be we're all going to be laughing because it's like, you blew a 3-1 lead.
I will make...
how I laughed when the Pens lost.
Yes. I will come up with one funny joke on this show if the Avs blow a 3-1 lead.
Right.
If not, I'll just be like, well, I expected this.
It's like I would have left when we talked about Pens blowing the lead, but it was just like, you know what? I don't want to cackle into the mic, so I'm just going to restrain myself. But I was laughing when the Pens lost.
Yeah, I mean, you should always laugh when the Pens lose. It's the Pens. But
I'm a Capitals fan, therefore it's means a little more.
Yeah, it means a little bit more. Same how I am with the Blackhawks do anything ever. It's great. If they lose, you got to make fun of them. That's just how this works. But I think St. Louis gets the win. I think they defy the odds another day, and they take it to a Game 7 at Colorado.
I will say, don't worry about the Blackhawks. They take so many L's right now.
It's great. I love it. They need to do it forever, them and the Red Wings. Just permanent suffering for both of those two. Just forever. It's got to keep happening. But speaking of permanent suffering, Florida State suffered a lot of permanent suffering in their softball tournament, losing to Mississippi State. We're not here to talk about that, though, as much as I like to make fun of them for thinking they're the number 1 team in the country and then losing in their own regional, which was pretty hilarious. That was an all-time elite softball move right there. Of course, their players played amazing, but their fan base sometimes, I love messing with them. It's great to rile them up. It is time to make some softball super regional predictions. Going to start with the number 1 team in the country, Oklahoma, taking on the number 16 team in UCF. I already made the joke on Tuesday, the Dylan Gabriel Super Regional. Make him throw out the first pitch tomorrow. I demand it. It would be beautiful.
Just to get UCF riled up.
Just to make them mad. And then Mackenzie Milton could show up and fight him at the end of the 4th inning or something. I don't know. It'd be great. Oklahoma, UCF. I think Oklahoma wins both games of this Super Regional, gets it done 2-0. I think it'll be competitive for sure. I don't think OU will run rule UCF. UCF's got a bit more of a motor than people seem to think. They proved that against Michigan.
And also UCF can hit.
Yes, they can also hit. They're a fun offense. Jordy Ball is not expected to be back, or maybe not. I don't know. Oklahoma's being really secretive about it. They said she was up and pitching, which is a good sign. But
I think she'll be back for at least maybe game 2.
They might bring her in for some relief or something.
It's like if she has to, I think the worst case scenario that happens if you don't bring her in for relief just to finish a game off is that UCF takes one of the games. You have to throw her for game 3. That's basically what's going to happen. And not going to happen. I think that's the worst case scenario that could happen because Oklahoma. My thing is with them is that. I think obviously really good, best team in the country. Yeah. But there's a bit of an arrogance that they think that can be considered that we're untouchable. Look what happened. You dropped a game to Texas and you lost the Big 12 championship to Oklahoma State. So that's where I think the hitting comes into question. Yeah. Where they got to obviously we know they can hit. The issue is they got to step up when they need to. Yes. So I think they do take both games, but they're going to be really close.
Yeah, I think they'll be competitive.
Both games will be close.
It'll be a fun time for sure. And then looking at Virginia Tech and Florida on the other side, Hokies taking on the Gators. I think Virginia Tech is going to struggle a little bit. We saw them do it a little bit against Kentucky. I think they win in 3.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say Florida beats Virginia Tech. That's a bold take right there.
I'd say that Virginia takes it in 3.
Yeah, I think the Hokies will get it done. They might struggle game. They might do the thing we saw where they lose game 1. Everyone's like, Florida's a game away. Oh my gosh, it's happening. And then Virginia Tech calmly wins game 2 and game 3. Yeah. Moving on to Arizona State Northwestern. This is going to be a true offense versus defense. Northwestern can hit. Absolutely can, but they're more of a defensive team, ride their pitchers. If they can win a 3-0 game, they'll take that. Arizona State's going to try to go for 20 every single time. Yeah. That's how they are. Tempe is a very weird place to play because there's a lot of momentum in that ballpark, it feels like. If nearly every ball felt like they had any momentum under it, any air under it at all, was going out. Yeah. That's how that entire regional went. Yeah. I think the Super Regional will be the same.
Going to be a lot of home runs.
I'm going to say Arizona State in 3. I think Northwestern does get one game in there. They're able to force a lot of grounders, but Arizona State's offense is so fun to watch.
I would say that I'm going to go against the grain on that, and I think Northwestern's pitching keeps Arizona State mainly at bay, but Northwestern takes it in 3.
Alrighty. And then the first of the wacky regionals, Stanford and Oregon
Pac-12.
State, the all Pac-12 regional no one expected, but I'm sure somebody asked for. Stanford and Oregon State, these two have had wonderful stories. Stanford is such a underdog team. They have that underdog mentality written all over them, from the silly Ushka hats to the great pitching to their defensive infield that just does not make mistakes ever. It feels like they're nearly a machine to watch. And Oregon State, this is a team that they've seen before, obviously. Oregon State did the same thing. They relied on their big power hitting. Tennessee kept throwing them high balls, so they kept hitting them out of the park. And Stanford can't make that same mistake. I don't think they will. I'm going to go with Stanford to win this series in 2. I think being a familiar foe, they'll both know how to beat the other one.
Yeah.
I think Stanford at home with all this on the line, I don't think there's anyone stopping the Cardinal in this super regional.
I think for this one, Stanford, like you said, their defense and their pitching is going to, I think, obviously the underdog mentality and basically the momentum they're riding on.
Yeah, not to say Oregon State doesn't, but I think Stanford's is a little stronger.
Yeah. Both teams obviously had to play at another one's regional, got through, and now you're back on the West Coast. So this is going to be, I think it's going to be hard fought, but I think Stanford does take it in 2.
Yeah. And then moving on to the bottom half, which is technically just this side and this side, but yay NCAA website, UCLA and Duke going out to L.A. For me, this is a congratulations, Duke. You made it. You should have been here last year. You get UCLA, take your 2 games and have fun. Not to say Duke's a bad team by any means,
I think
obviously.
Duke will probably give them a surprise.
I think Duke might give them a run, but UCLA, they are a battle-tested team. There's a certain kind of pedigree that comes with them where if you're going to beat them, you have to lay it on them. You cannot expect to win a 1-run game with them and have that hold for several innings. But I think Duke will make it a game, like you said, but I think UCLA will find a way to get 2 wins back-to-back.
I'm going to probably go against that. I think this goes to Game 3. I think Duke manages to pull one on them in Game 2, but I think UCLA comes back in, pretty much takes Game 3.
All right, and then Oklahoma State and
Which
Clemson.
is tonight.
Yeah.
Right after.
Tonight at 8:30.
Right after the Texas-Arkansas game.
Yeah, on ESPN2, Oklahoma State taking on Clemson. This has been the trendy upset pick. Clemson playing with all the momentum, it feels like. They just won their first ever regional. People want to know how well the Clemson fans will travel to Stillwater, knowing they're 2 wins away from their first OKC appearance. But Oklahoma State, they've been here before. They've done this before. 3 years in a row they've been in this super regional spot. And I know a lot of people like Clemson as the upset pick here. I can't see it. I think they're good. They're absolutely good. Their pitching's been amazing. They have a good 1-2 combo. But Oklahoma State's got one as well. And if they ever get Elish back, they will be a 3-headed monster when it comes to pitching. I think Oklahoma State wins it in 3. I think Clemson will get the best of them in one of the games, but I think Oklahoma State holds on and gets another trip to OKC.
I agree with OSU going back to OKC, but I think OSU takes 2 games, like back-to-back. As great as Clemson is, OSU's pitching also phenomenal, and hitting is also pretty solid. I think it's just going to be too much for Clemson. But Clemson obviously don't be surprised if Clemson comes back next year and they have their own super regional.
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised.
And that game is currently going on right now. Yeah. It's a 0-0 score.
Yeah, we got Texas, Arkansas, currently on ESPN2. Like Connor said, 0-0. For Texas, this is probably the funniest thing that could have happened. Okay, you don't get a regional. Instead, you get you beat Washington. Okay, well, enjoy Fayetteville. Have fun. Have fun playing the second best offense in America in an old rivalry. I'm sure they're not going to be mad at all. I'm sure there is no hatred there whatsoever.
Yeah, definitely no hatred. It's not like any of this dates back to the late 80s and early 90s. But obviously, with currently Texas is up to bat. Currently, batter has a full count with 2 outs. I think Arkansas for game 1 will manage to pull one on Texas and take it. I can see this one going to 3 because Texas is also really good. Just if their coach cannot make a complete joke out of himself, I think they'll be fine. But if he does that, expect everything to go wrong for Texas. As me and Cade witnessed.
Yeah, as we witnessed live in Oklahoma City. That was
it was great. He somehow made you had an indifferent OU base there, but the second all that stuff happened, you got the entire stadium against Texas.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, okay, it's OU Texas time. Okay, it's time to root against Texas, as is tradition. Never root for Texas.
But I think Arkansas will take game 1. I think Texas will take game 2, and I think in a hard-fought one, Arkansas will just get out of Fayetteville.
So I disagree with you there. Not in Arkansas winning. I think Arkansas does win the series. I think
both games.
The way Fayetteville is situated, it is the Coors Field of softball, I think is the best way to put it. You've got the altitude, and that is already a hitter's ballpark. It is built for teams like Arkansas to run rampant in it. I think if Texas can get Dulcini going, I think they can steal a game. But something tells me Arkansas is going to be so motivated.
That's mainly what I'm betting on.
They're going to come out and blast them.
They'll steal a game, but I easily expect Arkansas to probably take the series.
Yeah, I think Arkansas gets it done in 2, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if it goes to 3. And then finally, the odd ones out regional, the one a lot of people are excited for, that I think I'm maybe the most excited for besides OU's, Mississippi State's hosting Super.
Who would have thought that?
I never thought I'd say that in softball. But here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are. Mississippi State taking on Arizona. Another trendy upset pick. A lot of people have Arizona winning this one because, it's Arizona. When you think them, you think college softball.
Yeah, but Arizona has done a good job of getting here, but it's one of these ones where I think Mississippi State is riding better momentum, and Arizona is just kind of running on fumes at this point. This could go to 3 games, but I think Mississippi takes both. Especially, you don't take down the number 2 team in the country in back-to-back games and win it convincingly. Though, obviously, the last game was close, it was still Mississippi State didn't really feel like they were under any pressure. Because when I was watching some of that game, even though the score was close, Mississippi State was just rolling defensively. And pitching was just great for Mississippi State in the late stages of the game. I think Mississippi State takes both games.
See, I think that this one goes to 3, but I still think Mississippi State gets it done. I believe in them. I have faith that they can get it done. Like you said, you don't upset the number 2 team in the country and go back home and lay an egg.
Yeah.
You don't do that.
You just don't do that.
You have all the momentum. You're going to go up against pretty much the exact same situation you just dealt with. You're going to go up against good pitching, but you know that pitching is a lot less stable than Florida State's core. Mm-hmm. And so I think Mississippi State gets it done. And if that's the case, you're going to have 2 unranked teams on one side of the bracket. You'd have a side of Virginia Tech, Stanford, Oklahoma State, and Mississippi State. And on the other side, you'd have 4, 5, 8, and 1. You'd have the stacked side and the upset chaos side, which would be a lot of fun because, OU, Arizona State, Arkansas, you have possibly the 3 best offenses in the nation right now, and then UCLA, who's the blue blood of college softball. If there cannot be a bluer blood than UCLA with 12 national titles. So it'll be a lot of fun. Like I said, college softball, NHL, already underway. We get NBA stuff tonight. So like always, we thank you for tuning in. It has been a wonderful time, as it always is. If you enjoyed what you heard tonight, do not be afraid to go subscribe to the Guys Who Stare at Stats YouTube channel. That is, once again, the Guys Who Stare at Stats. Google it on YouTube. Or if you want to just give us a follow here on Twitch, you're more than welcome to do that as well. And then follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, anything you want to. Facebook and Twitter is usually where you'd go to get notified about shows going on. But until next time, we might have a special Memorial Day show planned. We may not. Not going to say we are, not going to say we aren't. We might get Andrew back for that, maybe, maybe not. It's about like, where's Waldo? He might make an appearance someday. We might find him actually hiding somewhere under a building. I don't know. He might be actually anywhere, but I know he's in Philadelphia right now, back with family. So, like always, like I said, we thank you for tuning in. Enjoy a wonderful weekend of sports. And until next time, have a great weekend, everybody.